So yeah, gang life. It's violent, right? Seen it all.
Gang violence.
Ultra violence.
Seen it on TV, seen it in the paper. Yeah, no one can deny gang life is violent. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my experience with violence in my gang years. Yeah, that's right. 13 years of gang life, and yeah, there was some violence. I'm going to jump on the bike, go for a nice calm little ride, not a violent one, and I'll tell you all about it. See you all in a minute. Oh yeah, so hey, let's talk about it. Let's talk about violence, gang violence. It's part of that world, yeah? Can't deny it, it's part of it. You've seen it, everyone's seen it, everyone knows. But what's it really like? How do you become that way? How did I become violent to become part of that life? I'm going to tell you about it. Growing up, I experienced violence. I grew up in New Zealand. It's not an uncommon thing here. My first exposure to violence was either through my brothers or my mother being beaten by one of her deadbeat boyfriends throughout the years. It was a common occurrence. So I was around that. You know, there's always schoolyard scuffles, punch-ups, dust-ups, stuff like that, you know. I never really got involved in it, you know. I was, a bit of a pacifist. I didn't like fighting. I had 3 older brothers at home who used to beat me up daily. I didn't want that inflicted on me from other people. And one of the first fights I ever had, I got my ass kicked, man. I got 42 stitches in my face just from this one fight. So I was like, I don't really kind of get down with this violence. I enjoy watching it on TV and all that stuff, of course. But having it done to me, nah. And doing it to someone else, just no way. I just, for some reason, I couldn't. Even as a young kid, I didn't want to inflict that on someone else, what had been done to me. Many years later, you know, going through the tattoo years, there was always violence, you know. People get turfed out of tattoo shops, give them a smack or whatever. That was part and parcel of tattooing and just life at the time, but it wasn't violent acts, you know. We weren't really hurting people, you know. It was just like, hey, get out of my face kind of deal. So many years later, when I started to hang out with the MC, you know, I never really experienced violence with the MC because I wasn't part of it. I was a hang-around, you know. I was aware of violent incidents that happened, you know, but it was always public knowledge. I started becoming big because I was hanging out with these guys that I talked about, you know, and these dudes were massive. We're all at the gym all the time, you know, big dudes. I started becoming part of that too. You know, my friend who was president of the MC chapter, you know, he was a kickboxer for about 10 years, you know, so this dude was serious. And I wanted to be like them, you know, so these guys are cool, you know. You know, always at the same time, never getting involved in violence or violent acts or anything like that. And so many years later, you know, as I moved down the Gold Coast and started hanging out with the skinhead gang that I was with, I started realizing that maybe I should learn how to defend myself at least, because the world that I was going into, I knew was really violent. Most of it was senseless violence. It was targeted violence, you know, and I thought, oh, well, if I'm going to be a part of this, I really need to know how to fight. And so I started talking to a friend of mine who was a secondary black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he's like, martial arts, man, you can defend yourself. I was like, okay, great. So I ended up training Hapkido, of all things. I don't know why. I ended up training Hapkido for 2.5 years under Grandmaster Burmas Kim, who's a bit of a legend in Hapkido. Achieved my first degree black belt under him. I trained privately with him 5 days a week for that entire 2.5 years. I was serious about it, you know. I wanted to just really be able to defend myself, be scary, and have the confidence to know that I can mess someone up. Because there were some serious dudes on the coast. Like one night, I was sitting at a club with one of my brothers. I went out for a cigarette and I got surrounded by a whole bunch of dudes from one of the MCs in town. And they were serious dudes, they were massive. They surrounded me up. And I went, oh shit, here we go. This is it. And the leader looked at me and was like, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I know who you are. And he said, how do you know me? And I said, well, I tattooed your nephew. And he looked at me, oh, hey, you, I know you. Yeah, how you going, bro? And I'm like, what's this all about? He's like, oh, we just want to see who you are, you know, you're wearing patches. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. I told him who we were with, and he's like, no, you guys are cool, man. Went back inside, sat down with my brother, and he comes over and puts 2 drinks in front of us. I'm like, oh. So anyway, I was like, oh man, this is serious, you know, I need to really learn how to look after myself. And I'd had other confrontations and surfers just with random people, you know, and it was getting serious. Of course, I was really throwing myself into this life. So I was attracting that kind of shit, you know, the violence came with it. So the Hapkido wasn't enough for me. You know, I wasn't learning how to defend myself. Not what I thought anyway. You know, I was getting bored with it. And I've been introduced to another instructor on the Gold Coast, Kiyoshi Ben Pollitt, who at the time was a pretty serious dude on the Gold Coast. All the gangsters knew him, all the gangsters trained under him, including all the MC guys, including the guys that surrounded me. He was the guy to go train with. I went, okay, cool. I went and did a couple of sessions with him, and he's like, come train with me, brother. I went, yeah, okay. He's like, what do you want? What do you want to get out of it? And I told him, look, man, I'm straight up, I'm patched. I don't learn how to fight, man, I need to do this. He turned and said to me, okay, I'll teach you how to fight with bad intention. Okay, sounds good. And so for the next couple of years, while I was patched, I trained with Kiyoshi every day, 5 days a week, privately. Yeah, I really sunk myself into it because I was like, I'm going to be the best. You know, anyone comes at me, I'm going to be able to just whoop him. Silly way of thinking, really. You know, and Kiyoshi was great. You know, we became good friends and we started hanging out and talking, and he talked to me a lot about my club, you know, and all the bullshit. And he never judged me. He never once judged me for it. And that's something that really stuck with me, even to this day, because I was being judged, and rightfully so. You know, I was a scumbag, you know, well, parents. I started really throwing myself into training, you know, I was really digging it. It felt great, I'm not gonna lie, but it gave me this confidence, you know, and it came to a head. The first time I ever acted out violently towards another person was at one of our gigs. And this dude was doing dumb shit, but he didn't deserve the beating that I gave him. And I always have felt bad about that. I always regret my actions on that night, absolutely. Because all I wanted to do was be this big man and impress my brothers and show what's up and take care of business. And I did that. But afterwards, I felt sick. I felt sick to my stomach, especially when someone showed me a photo of the dude the next day. And when I did that to him, and I am sorry. I am so sorry I did that. It was at that point I realized, you know, I don't want to be a violent person. I don't want to live a violent life. And I'd already started thinking about leaving the gang. I'd talked about it in my previous video. You know, I just wanted to get away from that life. Kiyoshi, at the time, he knew that. He sensed that. We'd been talking about it. And he started working on me as well. Started sending positive energy and, you know, guiding me in the right direction. He started teaching me karate. And he started teaching me Muay Thai. And he started putting me through the gradings. And it helped me. It really helped me. So by the time I quit the club, he was there. He was there for me. And he helped me through that entire period. Focus on training, focus on discipline. These are the things that I needed to replace that emptiness that was inside of me that I was trying to fill with this brotherhood I was filling at the dojo. So now I live a peaceful, non-violent life. It's great. And don't get me wrong, I still train martial arts. In fact, I'm going to Thailand to live and train Muay Thai very soon. The violence in the gang world is there because that's how those groups have become what they are. Through intimidation and fear, which is always as a result of violence. It doesn't matter what gangs you're with, there'll always be some aspect of violence towards it. And it's your choice. If you want to be a part of that world, expect it. For me, I never wanted that part of it at all, so I left that life. And I will never go back to it. I will never go back to a violent life. My life now is peaceful. I bring no harm. And it's great. And anyone can do it. I really can. If I can, you can. Thanks for coming along and listening to another one of my stories. Really appreciate it. And if you did like what you saw, please feel free, as always, to give us a big like, subscribe down below, and hit that little bell to get notified. And you'll be seeing new videos from me every week, Sunday night, 7 p.m. New Zealand time. Mr. Brad Raven on YouTube. Peace out, have a great day, and be kind, even if it's just to yourself.